racing is all about precision. But do you really know where you're losing time? Your braking, throttle control, and racing line. Every detail matters. But without the right data, you're just guessing. This is where Race Data gives you the edge. Instantly analyze your lap data, see exactly where you're losing time, and make real improvements. Know your weaknesses, fix them, get faster. Stop guessing, start improving. Try Race Data today.
Hello everybody and welcome to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, here tonight for the next round in the Radical Sim Racing Americas Championship for 2026. Getting down towards the back end of the season now. After 10 rounds of racing, we'll know exactly who's off to the Radical Sim Racing World Finals at the end of 2026 and who's going to have to qualify their way in a week beforehand in November. 4 weeks to go, including this one. I'm Ian O'Leary alongside Jonathan Burke, bringing you commentary here tonight on RaceSpotTV of this race. Hugo Louise behind the cameras of this broadcast tonight. Good to be alongside you for this one, Jonathan, in Braselton, Georgia for Road Atlanta, one of America's very best sports car racing circuits.
It's fast, it's flowing, there's a lot of small little technical points of this circuit. It's going to be very difficult to overtake, I think, but it's going to be very exciting for us to watch.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's one of the circuits that really fits into the character of this season so far. Well, next time out be at Mosport, which feels in some ways similar to this. That's 6 weeks away, though. The season getting a little bit more elongated from this point after a busy summer period that's seen us over in Adelaide at Road America 4 weeks ago, indeed, as well. Road Atlanta through the middle part of this season as well, which of course is where the Radical officials are at this week. We've already had our broadcasted race on a Friday night through here. Indeed not won by Aidan Young, but Brandon Hawkin instead taking the victory. I don't believe either of those two are going to be in here for us tonight. In terms of who is here and who is on the championship points, well, it's all been about Aidan Young so far this season in the Drivers' Championship for the pro drivers. He is leading now by 47 points in front of Ryan Odo, an ever-increasing gap in the overalls. He's ahead of then Diego Zuccarelli and Jose Gonzalez, Jarek Junkovic, Roman Fo, Jeremy Minella, Christian Emanuel's not got any points to his name. These are all at the bottom there with points missing because of weeks missing. James Franczyk is leading the way in the AMS at the moment, just in front of Cara Dudgeon with Dudgeon has moved up in recent weeks, sorry, looking at different points. Jesse Lambert is in second place on these, just 3 points from Maxime Armand. Jean-Francois Larocque and John Bedler top 5. Top 7 is complete by Tina Rennie and Cedric Oyon. Then Dudgeon, Neville, Fuoco rounding out the top 10. Top 7 important, of course, because they get straight into the World Finals. In the Team Pro standings, it has been very much about WSR Esports and Team ERC, who have been dominating here in front of Den Competition and Vimmer. Passion Sim Esports comfortably in third place, and for the AMS, Radical Academy Canada with Bad Wolf Racing just in front of Joe de Course and Lima Racing, much closer in the Team AMS standings for the Americas Championship. So that's how we stand going into week 7. Say 10 weeks in the calendar. Top 7 go straight to the Radical Sim Racing World Finals. The next 7 then go to the qualifier the week beforehand in November, and then that sets the field for the World Finals themselves in, I believe, the last Sunday of November. Indeed, Brandon Hawkin is indeed with us here today, which is good to see. His rival from Friday night, Andre Castro, not here. We sometimes see him make an appearance, but it's mostly on Friday nights where we see him. Brandon Hawkin has been making a real impression, though, on Friday nights. He's won the last 4 weeks in a row on Fridays in the Radical Esports Cup, which has put him right to the top of the official iRacing standings. It's his first race, though, in the Radical SimRacing Americas Championship, and it's always different in a new field because he's going up against some different drivers. For example, Aidan Young and Ryan Odo, who I don't believe have been at any, if they have been, only 1 or 2 of our Friday night broadcasts so far this season. So it's a different field for him, and you can see already who the 3 to beat are going to be here tonight. Aidan Young, Brandon Hawkin, Ryan Odo, in that order at the top of the qualifying so far, separated by less than 2 tenths with still 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Hawkin fits in with the 2 up front. Young and Odo have been kind of the dominant 2 of the season. 2 rounds ago, one of them won by 30 seconds. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of fits in. Odo and Young are also teammates as well. So how does that factor into a third party not associated with them trying to play spoiler?
Yeah, exactly, and it maybe gave us a bit of a view into how this race is going to be panned out as well, the way that Hawkin raced that event on Friday. This event is expected to be about double the length. Obviously, it's a 45-minute timed race here. It was a 20-lap limited race on Friday, but Hawkin and Andre Castro were just following each other for 18 of those 20 laps before it finally kicked off for the final couple of laps. Is that the sort of thing we're going to see tonight, I wonder, here at Road Atlanta? Because while it is all technical and it's narrow and it's tight, but there's also, in these radicals, quite a lot of chance for slipstreaming here. People forget how long the back straight is between turn 7 and that chicane at turn 10A. It's a very long straight here at Road Atlanta.
And that's going to be the best opportunity to pass 10A into 10B. We're coming up right to it now with Aidan Young. And it's not as heavy as a braking zone as it once used to be, but it's going to be who's going to be the latest on the brakes here and getting that slipstream. I think first few laps, you and are going to be very chaotic with the slipstream. Whoever is out front may just kind of be a sitting duck.
Yeah, indeed. But don't forget the difference between this race and that one, not only the fact it's double in length, but also those pit stops that are going to be so crucial. Maybe the leader is going to be hampered by the fuel saving going on behind them, if indeed that is the thing that transpires here early on. So, Hawkin has gone to the top, but he's now back in pit lane, and with only 3 minutes to go, he might not get back out there, to be honest. Aidan Young is 81 thousandths of a second behind after ever so slightly improving a couple of moments ago, but not on the most recent lap. Ryan Odo did not improve on the most recent lap either. He's attempting to do that now as he comes through the end of sector number 1, looking for a sort of lower 32 there, and he's not found it through this time. So doesn't look like this lap time is going to be the one either, but I would say as long as you're on those first 2 rows for Odo here, and he's going to get the draft of Hawkin and Young, I think he can stay in the front group and stay in contention for this race, even if you're not anywhere really near the pole here tonight, which it doesn't look like Odo's going to be able to manage.
I think you talked about the slipstream being a big key, and I think the slipstream and the fuel saving and the pit strategy is going to be key. So a front row start it will help, but I don't think it's going to hinder anyone. So Odo, right now looks like a decent lap time, maybe not enough to pip his teammate, but a decent one out there, and he's actually going to come into the pits.
Yeah, he's decided that's enough. Jared Tunkovic, the only one in the top 11 who's still out there now. Everybody else has given up for the session. Whether they've finished their laps or just given it up for now, we'll see. But Tunkovic is going to come through the final couple of turns. Was racing, and he comes in pit lane as well. So times are over here for everybody. As I say, Tunkovic was with us on Friday. I think he finished 7th from memory on Friday, which was a solid result because for a lot of time previous to 2026 he's been an AM driver in the Radical SimRacing Americas series. He's moved up to the pro in more recent times. In the regular season he finished in 2nd place in 2025, just 18 points behind Jose Gonzalez, who's also moved up this season, though he's not here. He is here tonight. There he is, 11th place. He's not with the other pros. I missed him there. So, a couple of drivers who've moved up due to their performances from previous years. James Frasnick, though, has gotten the pole here, it looks like, in the AM class. He's currently the championship leader there in the AM Championship, just in front of Carl Judging in this session by about, what's the gap there, 4 thousandths of a second. and then only another 36 thousandths back to Rylan Fuoco, who's in third in the AM class. So equally as close, if not closer actually, in the AM class, especially between those front three, who are going to have to fight it out through the midfield there for the class win.
And it's scored overall points-wise as well when we're talking about the pro and the AM. So, like, whatever position overall they get is what the points they get. So, 8th and 7th, like, those 1 and 2 places in that midfield are going to make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the AMs can really use to their advantage in terms of gaining and losing points. I mean, James Franzik, for example, at Adelaide, had a brilliant race and gained 7 points on everybody else. Cedric Oyon was second, Cara Dudgeon was third. 7 points gained on Oyon. Dudgeon gained 9 on her, and it was. Dudgeon was retired from that race, so gained even more. Second place in that race was Jesse Lambert, who also gained a lot of points on him. So yeah, I mean, these are the classes in the AM class where you can really gain a lot of points there because of the overall point scoring system. We may well see that in handy again tonight for the championship leader who has taken pole in the AM class. Well, 45 minutes are on the clock then. Let's go through the starting grid ready for round 7 of the Radical Sim Racing Americas Championship tonight. And it is Brandon Hawkin on his season debut taking the pole at Road Atlanta in front of Aidan Young and Ryan Odo, who fought it out through the season. Jack Tunkovic is not too far behind them on this occasion in 4th, with Diego Zuccarelli and Romain Faux rounding off row 3. Sky Schundermeyer is then in 7th in front of the AM pole sitter James Franzik. Cara Dudgeon and Rylan Fuoco make up the first all-AM row. Jose Gonzalez just outside that top 10. Maxime Armand is then in 12th. The final drivers are Jean-Francois Larocque and Tino Rene, and Brett Accord did not set a time. Hopefully he will grid up though, and he has indeed done so far. 45 minutes on the clock then, 2 pit stops to come as well, and I'm expecting a very tight race that's going to come right down to the wire.
And I think the standing start is going to be key too, because it narrows so quickly in these first couple of corners.
Yeah, indeed it does. Through turn number 1. It's actually where we've seen moves for the win take place in the past on the very final lap. It can very often, a bit weirdly, turn 1 can actually be the passing zone on the very last lap, if indeed that's what it comes down to. We'll have to wait and see tonight. It's going to come down to that off the start here, certainly. Standing starts as always in these radicals. So the launch off the line going to be super, super important. And although Brandon Hawkin is a newcomer to this series, he's no newcomer to these radicals, he is experienced enough to be able to walk this car off the line just as well as anybody else. The top 4, for whatever reason, taking a bit more time to get themselves onto the grid and get themselves composed for this race, but they do so now just in time, and we're ready to go racing from Road Atlanta tonight. 45 minutes in the offing then for the 7th round of this championship. Lights are on, and we are underway. It's a decent start from Young on the outside, but he's not going to get anywhere near alongside Brandon Hawkin, who's going to lead single filing towards turn 1. In fact, the front 4 all single file here. It's side by side between Zuccarelli and Faux, who go up the hill now nose to tail. It looks like Zuccarelli is going to hold on to that 5th position. A very orderly start as they make their way down the hill for the very first time.
Not a lot of big dives, not a lot of big opportunities so far, but I think everyone knows that we have 45 minutes and 2 pit stops. We have plenty of time to sort this out, get into a rhythm, and just keep on trying to find a dance partner as well to save fuel.
Well, a little bit in the back there, Romain Faux defending from Schundelmeier and Franzik, who are going side by side, and that's Rylan Fuoco is watching on. Cara Dudgeon's been displaced to 3rd in the AMs, as wide for Franzik, the AM pole sitter, and here comes Fuoco, here comes Dudgeon, here comes Gonzalez. They're all in a train here. Franzik's got to be very wary, and he just cuts into line there, just in front of Fuoco, who goes to the other side instead. We run a ball with Gonzalez, who watches on as 3 wide into the final chicane. Oh, in the end, Fuoco's going to back out of that one because Franzik's going for Schundelmeier, and Fuoco's broken too late. He goes straight on through the 10A, 10B chicane.
Trying to make sure you don't get involved in a collision early on. But we do have a fast repair in this series, but a tow and a fast repair is still going to set you a long ways back, and that has done a lot of damage to the 55's race already.
Yeah, down to the back in 15th position, Rylan Fuoco. Franzik able to not get past Schundelmeier actually on that occasion, so still back in 8th. Then it's Dudgeon, Gonzalez, Larocque, Armand, Rene, all in that train. Brett Accord just a second or so off the back. With a Fuoco, that was a big slide for Ryan Odo. One of the tricky corners, turn 5 there, and Odo almost found out.
trying to keep as much momentum as possible, because I think he fears that he's going to lose this train of Hawking and Young pretty quickly, but he's got plenty of time in the backstretch, still within reasonable rate to get a draft. Djokovic is also hanging on to these three quite well early on.
Yeah, he is, actually. Considering he's not one of the race favourites, he is holding on well. Young is almost close enough for a move this time, but he's not going to try one. This is going to set the tone, I feel, for the race, and the stints are not so long in these Radical Sim Racing America's Championship races, by the way. The 45-minute race, you don't often see them going much further than 20 minutes in the first stint, even with a bit of fuel saving. So this stint isn't going to go on for too long, but it could be an entire stint of Young hanging out behind Hawking. They are not hanging out behind one another. Gonzalez is on making moves. He's past Dudgeon. Larocque's trying to follow. It ends up side by side with Armand, and Larocque at least holds off Armand for the moment.
Two team cars racing each other hard, the 23 and the 520. You don't want to trip over each other trying to gain places, especially on a car that's technically not in your class, being the one that's the lead of the train.
Yeah, that's the Jour de Course team, Armand and Larocque, behind the Radical Academy Canada team of James Franczyk and Cara Dudgeon by 9 points heading into this latest round of the Teams AM Championship. Oh, here as well, there's a look from Larocque on one of his team's championship rivals. You notice teammates 1 and 2, Franczyk and Dudgeon, Larocque and Armand 3 and 4. Those guys at Jour de Course, Larocque and Armand, have got to get in amongst that, because at the moment this is a big loss in terms of points if it stays as it stands between these four team battlers. Here goes Dudgeon, meantime, on the pro driver of Jose Gonzalez, and again that gains them a point because of the overall scoring system.
Yeah, Gonzalez is kind of in a weird spot now, fighting amongst the AM drivers in the midfield. He kind of qualified poor compared to some of the poor drivers, so now he's going to be stuck in this really heated battle. He's going to have to watch his mirrors too, because the 23 looks very racy, because I held my breath the moment he looked down into turn 7 for a move.
Yeah, indeed, it's going to be one of those fights, it feels like. Although Dudgeon's got through here, it doesn't feel like she's going to find it very easy to get away from these guys behind. Gonzalez, Larocque, Armand, Fuoco all counting themselves as part of this battle. Oh, Brettacord not part of it anymore, and that's what's happened there. I mentioned turn 5, Ryan Odo very nearly finding out how difficult turn 5 was. It's actually the S's before turn 5 catching out Brettacord there.
Just like it kind of hopped across the bumps a little bit, and he had to correct it.
Just a change of weight, direction, the change of direction on the bottom of the hill there through the S's. It's a remarkable first sector here, but it is difficult at Road Atlanta. There's no doubt about that. Change for 6th place meantime as Schundelmeier gets down the inside of Romain Faux and through into 6th position. It looked like Romain Faux didn't put up too much resistance towards that one, as it would be a little bit silly to do at this early stage in the race, given what is still to come.
I think you saw those AM guys fighting in the back, fighting in that midfield, and went, yeah, no, I'm not going to delay us or slow us down. Get me away from the hornet's nest that's happening back here.
Yes, if they fight too hard, they will end up back here very quickly because of the time loss during a fight. So maybe did see that and wanted to be no part of it. So we go on board with Larocque again. Gonzalez was not able to make a challenge last time round for 9th position. Maybe this is starting to settle down, or maybe it's just a lap of calm here before Gonzalez gives this one another go on the very next lap. He's pretty close. You'd say he's in the range here to make a move at the chicane again.
Tucked up behind that 305 and make a move, but the problem is for Gonzalez, like when you're in this big train, especially here at Road Atlanta, you're attacking and defending. He's going to be wary of the 3 wide coming.
Here we go. Gonzalez gets the draft and gets straight through. Just judge him, let him have it. Yes, reluctantly, I feel, but she does in the end. Gonzalez back into 9th again. And as you mentioned, he is in a weird place here as a pro driver in amongst all these AM drivers, but you can't afford to just let them go or whatever. There's points on the table here, and Gonzalez at the moment 5th in the standings. Not that far, now that we've added drop weeks, by the way, which is why everything looks quite close. Oh! Larocque on the grass. He's going to go wide through turn 1. He just clipped the grass on the way towards turn 1 there, and he loses 2 places with that error.
You're pushing so far on the limit on these rumble strips and on the track limits, and just a little bit of a hair get himself loose, and that's going to be 2 places. The good news is there's not a lot of time. 3 seconds. He can make that up as the race progresses.
It's true, but he'd rather not through this race. That was a costly error potentially for LaRock. Let's just listen into Odo here, see how much he is lifting. Right the way down the hill, feels like Odo is fuel saving behind Hawkin and Young, and that is my concern a little bit with Hawkin at the moment, that he's led pretty much every lap well, he has led every lap of this race so far. I wonder if he is giving up quite a lot of fuel compared to these 2 guys behind him, which might well come back to bite him later on.
We're not expecting to change tires, so I don't know if an overcut or an undercut is really going to be more effective, and I don't know if Hawkin is necessarily worried too much about a lap earlier or a lap later, especially since he has 2 team cars behind him. And I think that's the bigger worry, is that these 2 are teammates, so they might have a better plan to go about this than Hawkin does all by his lonesome. He really needs Dunkovic to get up here and start making some noise. He's kind of on his own in 4th place.
Yeah, he very much is on his own at the moment. We'll see whether he catches up if there's a fight here. I would say, they are teammates, it's correct, between Young and Odo, but they don't always race like their teammates. I mean, think back to the Laguna Seca race where they made a contact on a couple of occasions, and in the end, I think Young did still come out with the win on that occasion. Yeah, he did, of course, because he's on this long run, or was. So, yeah, it as he looks, but then doesn't go. I don't think he'll feel... Well, he might feel like it's 2 against 1 at the moment, but I don't think he should feel that way so much, because I think when it comes down to it, Young and Odo are going to be fighting each other just as hard as they'll be fighting Hawkin to try and win this race. Well, I would say, which is a bad thing for Hawkin, though, we were talking earlier about, before we came to air, about Adrian Young's first race in this series. It was 18 months ago or so now, but he's on this remarkable run at the moment of almost winning every race this year. Well, it's only 18 months ago or so when he didn't realise that you couldn't take tyres and refuel at the same time in a Radical, and you did it at different times, and at the Nordschleife he cost himself a good result at the first round of the 2025 Championship by making that rookie mistake. He won't be making that again, but the point is that Hawkin is making his first race in this series this year, and it's the first year that we've had this 45-minute race with 2 pit stops in these rules, so you do wonder whether that lack of experience with the format could catch him out, because it is an unusual, quirky format we have in this series.
And it's unusual to be making a pit stop in these cars. Like, every car is a little bit different when it comes to getting on and off pit road. So it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how he kind of plays it out. I'm assuming he has, tested it. We have a great battle for 5th, by the way, in the bottom of your screen. The 24, after being under attack at the start, has now come alive. And these 2 are kind of slowing each other down and making Dunkovic a little bit more on an island. Yeah, indeed. They are.
You'd think that exchanging places would maybe help you go a bit faster. It's sort of working together in that way, but actually just sort of bump drafting like that, or using the reverse draft, if you like that, is a little bit more useful. I think Shunobar wants to keep making some progress through the field, to be honest. Already up past Romain Faux here, and looks quicker in the race than in qualifying, which is allowing these positions to be gained here. But Zuccarelli proving a little bit tricky at the moment. Again, it's the thing with this circuit, really. It's hard to get ahead and then get away in the same move. You really need a mistake from the driver you're up against, because the draft is there, and you get into the back straight so often with such a short lap. It just acts as a bit of a closing mechanism for them to get back again all of a sudden on every back straight. And as I say, they get into that back straight very often around this short circuit.
And again, no real heavy braking zones, like 10A to 10B. Like, that is kind of the slowest part of the circuit. They're getting only down to like 3rd gear. So I think no heavy braking zone is also keeping these guys well nipped and tucked together. So it's hard really to break away.
Yeah. And again, that's what makes these pit stops so crucial. Who's going to short fill in this first stint to try and get away from somebody else, and then we're going to see the real pace of these 3? Or are they going to do exactly the same thing? Are they all going to try and short fill, in which case it's completely negated across the board and they all end up as they were, these 3? Or indeed in the other battles, the pair for 5th place, for example, or indeed that's becoming a bigger fight. James Frantic's not that far away at the moment, and neither is Romain Faux. from those two, Zuccarelli and Shundamar. So these pit stops are so crucial here, but they're only 8 or so minutes away, and these guys, because they're not actually fighting, they've got a lot of time to think about what they're going to do in this first pit stop of the day. Do they short fill? Do they fill the tank up right to the top? Do they go somewhere in the middle? There's actually quite a lot of wiggle room within this format to choose your pit stop length here for the first and second stops. Obviously it adds up to about the same time, but how much do you take in stop number 1 and how much do you take in stop number 2? That is the big question.
You also have to think about where you cycle out. I mean, there's only 15 cars on track, thankfully, so there's not a lot of traffic to worry about. But you're going to have to think about where you cycle out towards the rear of the field, assuming other guys may start pitting earlier.
Yeah, it's true. Even though it is a small field, the spread does mean that you have to think about this, but normally we do see the leaders waiting to the end because they want to get that bit of clean air. Zuccarelli goes to the inside of Shundamar. Now it's started to happen behind, so 32 minutes to go. We've probably got a 7-minute window, 7 to 10 minute window from here, and Ryland Fuoco has kicked off these pit stops, so the leaders will wait for some of this midfield to thin out before they make an early pit stop or anything like that. But now that Fuoco's come in, a lot of the other AMs are going to be tempted to come in. Then when the top AMs start to come in, the bottom pros are going to start to be interested, and the knock-on effect extends to the leaders. So Ryland Fuoco has kicked over a domino effect here that's going to go on for the next 5 laps or so.
And I think it's going to be a good indication to some of the others, because you can only practice it so often of, like, how much time are you really losing compared to some of the other drivers.
Shundamar again, choosing the get past option, make the pass, I should say, option.
They're not going to be able to get away from each other, are they?
No, no, probably not in this race. Again, this is the opportunity that the pit stops potentially present you, but are they actually going to be able to get away from each other, I wonder. Dudgeon under pressure from Armand, by the way, for second in the AM class, so Armand now having to fight alone with Jean-François Larocque going wide at turn 1 earlier on, but not able to infiltrate the top 2 just yet, although it's pretty much nose to tail, almost side by side coming into the final turn, and now does indeed get alongside in time for turn 1. Maybe we're looking at another 2 drivers who will struggle to get away from one another in this race as Maxime Armand gets down the inside and does move up to second in the AM class.
That's a really good move, and now they have about a 4-second gap though to the group ahead, so they've kind of like all separated in little packs. And then looking at Fuoco's time in the pit lane, it was about 42 seconds lost. So right now, if the leaders were to come in, they'd be about 12 seconds behind Brett Accord in the 15 at the moment.
Yeah, that's sort of what we're looking at. It's a good thing really that there is that little bit of space for them. So far the pit stops 13.7 for Fuoco, 14.4 for Larocque, but he's got a black flag, which he didn't actually serve in his pit stop, so it might be for speeding on exit or an unsafe exit or something like that. There is a yellow line to the right of this camera angle there that you can't cross before you get to that blue line. Maybe you cross that, but those are costly errors you can't afford around here. 42 seconds lane time in the lane, obviously take away the actual stop time for those guys. You spend 28 seconds driving down pit lane here at Road Atlanta. It is one of the long ones.
I mean, also talk about like a short lap too, so like he could be under threat to even be lapped or be a factor in the lead battle towards the end of this race, as now we have Duncan, who's second in the AM class coming in, Rene not too far behind. So I think there's going to be a nice gap now for the leaders to start thinking about, when do I start making my pit stop?
Yeah, this domino effect is going to reach them at some point very soon, but so far all of the pros have been unmoved by what's been happening in the AM field. They've still probably got 3 laps or so until they're going to be running out of fuel, maybe a bit longer. The fuel limit here, or the starting fuel rather, that they get is lower than what we see in the officials, and in comes Hawkin from the lead. Well, I think Young might have been thinking about coming in there with the line that he was taking, but on seeing the guy in front of him come in as well, he decided against it. So now it's a real time trial for Young and Odo as the race leader comes in after just 13 laps of this race.
It looks like a case of do whatever he doesn't do. And he's going to find himself a nice gap between the 305 and the 15 of Accord and Duncan to get back into the rhythm, to try and see if he can eke out some space between Young and Odo.
Well, we're seeing so many pit stops here, I'm beginning to think that 13 is the limit, unless you've been fuel saving behind Hawkin for the entire stint, in which case 14 is the limit for Young and Odo, who surely are going to respond this time round. Who can find their pit box cleanly in that amp field? Look at that and the bottom end of the pro field indeed. Look at that. Djokovic only 10 seconds in the box, by the way. That was 6 seconds shorter than Brandon Hawkins' stop, which was longer than anybody else's so far. And the advantage for Young and Odo as well, going on so long, is that they know how long that Hawkins spent in the pit lane. They can intentionally go 3 seconds or so shorter to try and distance him here.
And now it's a big game of math, and now it might be a game of chicken between these two if they both come in simultaneously, and yes, they will. So this is going to be interesting, too, to see if they try and differ from one another.
Watch out for that pit lane speed limiter there. Odo taking the undercut. Oh, look at this. A bit of a crisscross, a switch back in the pit lane. They're almost running side by side, coming through the boxes here. But I think this is some of the inexperience with this format that Brandon Hawkins is showing us here. I'd be surprised if this stop for Young and Odo is more than 13 seconds. I think they'll coordinate the same stop time, and I think it will be much shorter than Brandon Hawkins, whose stop, by the way, was the longest in the entire field, apart from Jean-Francois Larocque, who's serving a black flag. So let's see how long this is going to be for Young and Odo. It's even shorter than that. It's less than 10 seconds. They've absolutely pulled the blinder on Brandon Hawkins here, who won't know what's happened to him as he comes out of the first turn here. He'll see Odo and Young miles in front. He'll see the pair of them working together, and he'll see the race getting away from him.
Yeah, that's got to be a short fill strategy for the leaders, and Hawking, I think, may have just kind of filled it up to the limit, thinking, oh, this is what everyone else is going to do, but that is not at all the card has been played. The good news is he's not under threat for this third place, but it's going to be a long road back already with 20 minutes gone to try and claw back 5 seconds with one more pit stop.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, take note of that gap there. 5.6 seconds as this stint begins. They're going to swap this around because I guess Young and Odo think this is going to go a bit quicker if Aiden Young is the leader. Surely they're not going to fight here. That would be ludicrous. Indeed, Odo goes in behind Young. They're going to work together here, but yeah, make a note of that 5.6 seconds there. I'd be surprised if this gap is not getting towards 10 by the time Young and Odo have to come in, which they will have to do before if Brandon Young gets there, which will result in a slight Hawking overcut on the others. However, I think the time he's going to lose in this middle part of the race could be fatal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be key to watch the lap times if there is going to be a big difference between the toe and not the toe. I'm going to assume Young and Odo are going to be working together down that back straightaway, trying to inch their way away, and if they're gaining any time. Right now they gained about a second, but that was with coming out of the pits. So we'll see once we get back into full rhythm.
Yeah, we will. 25 minutes to go, and given we're expecting 36 laps and 14 laps have been the absolute maximum, 22 lap 22 I should say is the lap where you can pit and make it to the end of the race, but unlikely to see pit stops right at that point, although we might do. Jose Gonzalez, it's the shortest time of anybody, by the way, even quicker than the front two, as these two are exchanging places, weirdly. His stop was 8.9 seconds. That's got him right behind Diego Zuccarelli, whose stop was 4.7 seconds longer. Sky Schundermeyer's stop was nearly 7 seconds longer, so Schundermeyer's behind them both. But yeah, Gonzalez is going to be the first to stop really to kick off the final round of stops, and that might not be in the too distant future. But interesting that Odo and Young have decided that it's not actually bump drafting or whatever, or reverse drafting if you like, down the back straight. It's about swapping positions here. That's the way they believe this is going to go fastest for the two of them.
They were both faster than Hawking last time by. They gained about a total of 4/10 on third place, so I think at the moment they feel comfortable that they can swap back and forth and get the draft off each other and save a little bit from each other.
There's Brett Accord back past Tino Rene for 13th place, by the way. They've both been promoted one place with the demise of Jean-Francois Larocque in that pit stop there. He had to come in for a penalty, which is 43 seconds in the box, and indeed a second trip down pit lane, so that was very, very costly indeed. He's a lap behind these two, the leaders, and he's over a minute behind those next two in the field, so he really needs some people to retire from this race if he's going to get any more points out of it. And that means for the teams championship, Franzik and Dudgeon are going to really gain some time there on Jour de Course, and in the drivers, LaRocque is in danger of losing his place in the top 7 to the likes of Ryland Cuoco and Tino Rene. The fact that John Benlid isn't here, though, the one who's only 2 points behind him, and Cedric Orhions, who's only 1 point ahead of him, the fact they're both not here today does help a little bit. But it's going to be a big fight for the top 7, especially in those AM standings where it's exceptionally close so far, especially when you compare it to the pros.
And when you factor in the drops too, that makes something like this hurt a little bit less, but you also don't want to sacrifice too many drops, say if you miss a week or something like that, on a bad result like this.
Yeah, exactly. We do see a lot of missing weeks, so for LaRocque so far, he's been here every time, but so if there's going to be one down the line, then you want to use that as your drop week and not a week where you were actually here and able to make a difference. Didn't have such a good round at week 2 either. He was right down the back end of the field. Just this time, Young and Odo don't exchange places. They seem to be trying to work out what is the best way to do this. So far, they've only gained half a second on Hawking, when to be honest, I think they should be gaining a little bit more, really.
Hawking was about a couple hundredths faster than both of them last time around, so maybe drafting like this isn't the best strategy, or going back and forth like it. It's maybe staying nose to tail. I think that this is like a trial and error run right now of, okay, how do we space ourselves so this is just a fight between us two?
I think that's what they prefer, really, but they're not doing much to actually make that happen right now. So we have crossed the halfway mark of this race, by the way. Just over 21 minutes to go now, and look at that from Odo again through turn 5. He's pushing through turn 5, there's no doubt about that, but he seems to be living on the edge through there as well.
I think both of them are pushing. Like, they're in the low 115s. The only one who is matching them is Hawking. Everyone else is 116 hovering about. Jose Gonzalez, the only other person in the 115. So, like, they may be saving a little bit of fuel, but I think they're also just pushing it all 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's what these races are all about. Previously, in last year's event, for example, we had hour-long races instead, and it's effectively the same format, but this middle portion of the race, where you wouldn't see too much fighting, was very, very long. Well, this format, it's much shorter. This middle part of the race, where you don't see too much fighting, you see a lot of working together, as you see for Odo and Young here. You'll see for Zuccarelli and Gonzalez as well, who are keeping an eye out to start this pit cycle in probably a few laps' time, and plenty of the other fights as well. Schundermeyer and Franzik are another one who are running nose to tail at the moment. So this is very much the waiting period, but it's a fascinating waiting period, really, because we're looking at all these gaps that have been created by the previous pit stops. We don't quite know how they're all going to work out when they make their next set of pit stops, which makes this format so fascinating.
Yeah, because you don't really know how much short filling has impacted their time, or where they're going to exactly pit, or who might pull the trigger early to try and get into some clean air away from whoever they're racing with.
Bobby Gonzalez in another one of those groups where the positions aren't changing. As Young and Odo do exactly that, they change places. Through into first again for Aidan Young, who's been so successful in this season. I know that was one of the official reactions you had to looking at the points here heading into this round. Just the run that he's been on in 2026 so far, especially when you look back to 2025 and you see what a slow start he had on occasion. Won 2 out of the first 6 in 2025, which sounds like a strong record, but when you look at 4 out of the first 5 looking at 2026, it's a much stronger record. It's a brilliant start to 2026 so far for the man with number 1 on his car, for a reason, of course, the reigning world champion.
Yeah, 4 wins in a row, a couple of them by more than 2-digit seconds ahead out in front. Obviously, like, Young has been on a strong reign of form. He's been on the podium every single week so far. And like, just looking at like some of the fastest times and the average times, like, it feels like he's just getting more out of this car than you should be able to get out of this car.
He's the fastest driver in the Americas, I think, through the radicals here. The question is always, can he take it to the European side of things as well here? And well, maybe. Let's find out. I'm sure we will later this year as Ryan Odo makes his way past. I wonder if Ryan Odo can actually put up a bit of a fight here this time round and challenge Aidan Young for this lead of the race, towards the end of the race coming up, because this is something he's not been able to do so much this season. He had one of his better attempts at Laguna Seca, where there was a bit of a collision between the two of them in the laps leading up to the finish. So that was a sad way for that battle to end, but he has taken it to him on a couple of occasions, but not come out with the race victory so often. And it's about breaking momentum somewhat as well. I mean, Odo's going to struggle, I think, to get on terms in the championship now, given the strong position that Aiden Young's actually managed to find himself in now. However, it's about stopping the momentum there. Odo can certainly do that here tonight, and maybe stall some of that momentum heading into the World Finals, which I'm sure Odo will want to win for the first time.
I think the key thing, too, is going to be, I think, some of the drops, because, Odo's coming into this with 2 wins, Young is coming in with 4. The drops are going to be really key in how much Odo can maximize these last few rounds, because at the moment, Young has been on the podium every time, but he has to drop those points at some point. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to drop these 3 races. No, you have to. So it's up to Odo to kind of maximize points every week out, and he's doing a good job right now keeping his teammate honest up front.
Absolutely. I mean, with drops, the gap's 13 points between these two. Without drops, it's 45. So that speaks to the difference that makes that you're talking about. Zuccarelli and Gonzalez again go sort of side by side here. That's Gonzalez up to the top 5, but surely he's going to need to pit here soon. He didn't take on much fuel, and he stays a bit narrow over the crest there, but doesn't come in. That's the end of lap 22, by the way, so I would say the bar is open. I think the final pit stops can happen from any point from now, but if you can go further into the race, then that's all the better, because that makes everybody even more comfortable coming into the final part of the race, knowing that you can get the fuel done. They're probably already in the clear, to be honest with you. They probably can make it from here with 16 minutes remaining, but they definitely can now. And so we're just waiting now for the first of the final pit stops to really be kicked off here, probably by Jose Gonzalez, and these two will follow in the not too distant future as well. Odo getting in front of Young once again here. It will not be too long until they have to come into pit lane.
I'm trying to think of what the strategy is going to be for Hawken here, as he took the most amount of fuel. How long can he stay out? Because right now, he's not gaining or losing any time to the 2 leaders out in front. I think they're still trying to figure out how to pull away, and they just aren't. So it's going to be what strategy is it to bring himself back into the equation?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that they haven't really driven this home at the moment. Hopefully we'll get to chat to them at the end of the race. I'm fascinated to ask about this portion of the race, because I really thought this would be the moment where they made it just about the 2 of them rather than bringing Hawken in. But I think when these 2 come in, Hawken's going to carry on for as long as possible, because that's the point at which he's on low fuel, and the others will have just come out having refueled again to make it to the end. So that's surely the point at which Hawken can use his speed, and of course he's got the decision in his hands as well. He can decide when to come in, so if he sees that after the pit stop these 2 are still quicker than him, he can cut his losses and come straight into the pit lane as well.
There is that slight feel, though, about staying out and being in amongst the traffic that just pitted, because I'm watching the track map and I'm seeing Gonzalez is going to come out not too far ahead of our leaders. So when you get further down the order to Armand, Accord, and Froco, those guys, they may come out around where Hawking is going to be. Getting through that lap traffic, despite the small field size, might be a bit of a hassle too that might hamper him.
That's true. I mean, the gap to Dudgeon, who's just come out, is 1 minute and 1 minute and 8. The lap times here are 1 minute 15 as Giant Dunkovic comes in this time round. So that's not very much. Now Hawken is a few seconds further back, but as you say, the real guys at the back haven't really come in yet. I mean, Brett Accord has been caught by Jose Gonzalez, despite the fact Gonzalez has made an extra pit stop, for example. So it's potentially going to be a sticking point. And just because they're a lap down doesn't mean they're going to be an easy pass. That's for sure. We wouldn't expect to see lap cars intentionally getting in the way of the guys on the lead lap, but it's not like there's F1 style rules enforced here, so it can still slow you down, and that is another factor for Hawken here as Young again gets through on Ryan Odo. I think this could be on the in lap, and that might lead to Odo fighting this when he wouldn't normally. No, he doesn't. Maybe that means they're not coming in. Maybe that means he's not that interested in fighting with him at this stage in the race. What's going to happen? they stay out for another lap, but it will not be long now. There's only 13 minutes to go.
I like to imagine they're virtually like waving to each other as they go by on the back straightaway. Like, no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead, sir. Like, it's very gentlemanly. And then I'm thinking in the last 5 minutes, it's not going to be very gentlemanly.
Yes, gentlemanly for now. That is for certain. It won't be later when they're fighting for the win. And who knows, maybe they'll have an uninvited, unwanted visitor as well, at Brandon Hawkin, fighting with them. I mean, the difference between this and Friday night, which is so often what we take forward into these races on Sunday, is the way the officials' races pan out. That race on Friday, first of all, only involved Hawkin, didn't involve either of these two, but it also involved only 2 drivers at the front rather than 3. So when there's 2 drivers, it's a lot more of an as you say, I mean, there is a bit of after you going on up here, but you can do that when there's 2 of you. When there's 3, all of a sudden this game of rock, paper, scissors gets a little bit more complicated.
I like to think they're also looking at the relative and realizing, like, yeah, we're not pulling away from Hawking. Like, if we start fighting, if we start bumping and banging, push each other off the track, they're still going to be a factor. And actually, they're coming into the pits now.
Yep. They probably don't have the fuel to go much further. They didn't even put 10 seconds in previously, as Odo continues to take that tight line through the pit lane there, which just gains him a slight bit of time. You see him right on the back of Aidan Young here. If he's managed to fuel save, which there's no reason why he would have fuel saved more than Young, but if he has, then he might well make the jump here as they come into the box. He's just, Young staying a bit further left there, making sure that his teammate can see his box and his lollipop man so that he can get into the box nice and cleanly and now start to refuel. How long are the stops going to be? There it is, 9 seconds for the both of them, and Odo is side by side with Young. He's going to back out though, there's only room for one there, and he has to back out of it. So they come out of the onto the racetrack, 3rd and 4th, just in front of Sky Sundumar, but with just enough of a gap up to Diego Zuccarelli, so they're not in traffic just for the moment.
They're not in traffic, but they're going to be racing for a position, and I think it's going to be key here to see how quickly they can get to the back of Zuccarelli, or if Zuccarelli just comes in and lets these two go. Interesting how early these two went, knowing that possibly traffic or fighting for position could have been a factor.
So end of the first sector, again making a note of this, 24.5 seconds is the gap between Hawkin and these two. The gap, remember, when Hawkin came out was about 5.5 seconds. It was only 6 when they eventually came into pit lane. As you commented, just as they came in, they really weren't making the difference. And again, like you, I do wonder whether they were noticing that on the relative, that they weren't really pulling away, and I wonder whether they were surprised by that or whether they were expecting that at this middle portion of the race. Are they expecting a fight with Hawkin involved here, or are they a little bit disgruntled that they haven't been able to distance him so far in this middle stint?
I mean, right now we have to just kind of look at the gaps between them. You have to think about, total time in pit road for these two with the 9-second stop was about 35, 36 seconds. 23 seconds back. It's still right now a fight between Young and Odo. Hawking is still going to be a couple seconds behind him, but if he can try and eke out any advantage right now in the clean air, now is going to be the time.
And there's Zuccarelli out of the way for these two, with an 8.4 second pit stop, so he's on his way. He will be in front of Gonzalez, but not by loads in the battles there with the pros. The AMs have pretty much entirely made their pit stops, by the way, apart from Rylan Fuoco. James Franzik pretty comfortably ahead of Maxine Armand and Cara Judgen, who are fighting for what will become second, maybe third if Rylan Fuoco can jump in between those groups, but we'll wait and see when the current AM leader makes his final pit stop of the day. 9 minutes to go, not long to go at all before we see these final pit stops. Fuoco should be in next of the top 6 who are still yet to come in, obviously with the exception of these two, Young and Odo. The rest of them have all been into the pit lane outside the top 6 and indeed within the top 6. Sky Sundumar actually in next, so decides that now is the moment to come in from 4th. Let's say Fuoco won't be too far behind, although maybe not on this lap. No, indeed does come into pit lane this lap, does Fuoco. So the final reckoning for Brandon Hawkin is not far away. The gap though to him is closing. It's now less than 24 seconds. It was 24.5 when these two came out.
I want to give a shout out to Fuoco there. He ran 18 laps on that fuel stint, which I think is the longest that anyone's gone. after being the first one to pit, because I was looking, I'm like, wait a minute, didn't this 55 pit first? And he's now one of the last pitters, so it's a good fuel save stint from the 55 to try and gain some time there.
That's a good stint. It's a long stint through this race. He's behind Franzik though, and he's just, well, is he ahead of Armand and Dudgeon or not? That's going to be very close, as Odo gets past and drafts past Young for the first time in this group, by the way. Fuoco does hang on by about 3 seconds in front of Armand, who has got past Dudgeon as well. So Armand and Dudgeon as teammates are going to fight it out for third place. The free agent Fuoco is going to be in second. James Franzik, the current Drivers' Championship leader and part of the current Teams' Championship leader, is leading the AM class with a little bit of a margin heading into the final 7 minutes.
Yeah, that actually, like, that 65 strategy worked out really well, because that mistake early on put him in a weird spot of he overblew 10A, 10B, and then pulling out a very early stop, this long middle stint, and then short filling here, jumping 4 places. Like, that was a very, very good strategic move from the 55.
One last strategic move really left in this race, and that's for Brandon Hawkin, who is still out there running on the low fuel, trying to make a difference right now. He's really very level, really, with Odo and Young as they're running, and they've started to exchange places again, which we've seen in the previous stint hasn't really worked for them. A feeling that they might have accepted that they're not going to distance Hawkin in this middle portion of the race. They're going to have to fight him in the last part of the race. But let's see. Now is the reckoning. Hawkin comes into the pit lane. This stop needs to be very short indeed. I would say 4 seconds maybe, or less. But how much fuel can he afford to take with just 6 minutes to go? He's not even stopped in his box yet as these two come around the final turn. This is going to have to be exceptionally short for Hawkin. How short can he make this fuel stop here? It's over 4, it's 4.8. Round the first corner, Young and Odo are going to be in the lead, that's for sure. But is Hawkin in their draft? He isn't. It's a second and a half. Hawkin has had his fingers burnt here with his inexperience of this format. He's had his fingers burnt by 2 absolute professionals of this game. Aidan Young and Ryan Odo have been able to make this about themselves.
But the fear now, if you are Young and Odo, is if you trip over each other, you start slowing each other down, all of a sudden it becomes a 3-man party. So I think that just the threat of him there is going to keep these two very honest and clean over the next few laps.
It might well boil it down to a last lap deal, because as you say, Hawkin is not that far behind. It's 1.6 seconds right now. That can very easily be closed, and when you're within a second, obviously you get in the draft, which helps everything along. That is a great move from Maxime Armand on the bottom of your screen, by the way. The fight for third can properly commence now. The final stops have happened, and round the outside through turn 1 from Armand to get back into third in the AM class, and Dudgeon had no answer for that. That was a great move.
You want to protect the inside there, and then no, I'm just going to go around the outside, carry as much momentum as I can. Armand showing how far you can really push that car to the edge.
And indeed, it really is an edge at turn 1. It's a curb and then a big drop off towards the grass there, which you'll spend ages in if you're not too careful. Shundamar and Zuccarelli, meantime, exchanged for 6th place as well. There's loads of pairs around here. 1st place, 6th place, and overall 11th place, 3rd in the AM class. So here's the 2 pro battles. Zuccarelli with a better run, and here's maybe almost a replay of the Armand overtake as he goes to the outside. Zuccarelli not feeling quite as brave on this occasion. Armand and Dudgeon now also side by side again as they get to the end of their lap. It's hard to know where to look at the moment. They're side by side almost everywhere, apart from for the lead, where these two are still just keeping it as is. Young, though, is beginning to stretch a small margin over Odo, just preventing Odo from actually overtaking him on each lap. And if you can repeat that for another 3 laps, he might well be able to win this race. But that is a tall order with Odo crowding all over him at the moment.
They're not going to lose time overtaking each other on the back straightaway like they have been. Where they're going to lose time is if they're side by side anywhere else in the track. And another thing on the Zuccarelli fight, Romain Farr has still not pitted. I'm assuming he's going to pit this lap and really short fill it. So that 94 is going to come out and make that a 3-party battle for what would be, I believe, net 5th place.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Romain Farr still hasn't stopped yet with his fuel. So the longest run indeed with 19 laps with the maximum fuel. As I mentioned earlier, the fixed setup means that you've got a limit of what seemed to be 14 if you were fuel saving in the first stint, with the fuel cap at whatever percentage it is. I forget what it is in the radicals, but that gets you 19 laps pretty much at the absolute maximum for Foe. 4.1 seconds to do 3 minutes. I would say he's slightly overfilled that, and he's come out even behind Gonzalez in 8th place there.
I saw the trick. I saw what he was trying to go for there, but it's going to be a couple seconds further behind than he wants to. Hopefully, he gets to challenge Gonzalez for that last position in the pro category. But again, I love to see the varying strategies of these two stops. Like, this has been fascinating to kind of math out and watch.
Yeah, it really has. They always are, these Radical Sim Racing America's Championship races. They always are in the Europeans as well, which are on Sunday nights a bit earlier on in the day, on different evenings to the Americas mostly. We do have some double headers, but here it's just the America's Championship racing tonight. And through the S's goes Odo, right in the wheel tracks of Young. This is the penultimate lap, by the way, or should be. So Odo's got to stay closer than what he has done in the previous laps. He's maybe been tactically staying behind Young, but also I don't think he's really actually been close enough to make the move, even if he was trying to here. So I wonder whether it's only now where he's actually going to be able to make this move. Here he comes out of turn number 7, though. Odo, right in the wheel tracks of Aidan Young. This is positioning for the final lap, because they're going to see the white flag next time by. Where do they want to be? Odo's got the decision here. There's not much Young could do to decide. Odo wants to lead going on to the final lap. He goes to the inside. Young lets him in again, decides that he'll let him have that one, and Ryan Odo will take the white flag in the race lead here at Road Atlanta.
Hawking is still in the conversation. He closed 4/10 on this lap alone. These two start tripping up over each other. It's going to be the 99 all of a sudden arriving to the party and maybe snatching one.
Well, the Friday race was settled in a manner very similar to this, although Andre Castro, who lost that 1 versus 1, went wide at turn 1, and it was pretty much settled there in favour of Brandon Hawking. No such error from Aidan Young this time as they fly through the S's. Watch this through turn 5, where they've been so committed all day. Up over the curve, through the gravel. Young is still close enough at the moment. What can Odo do to try and hang on here?
Try and position himself to the inside maybe of this back straightaway and try and get back behind. Get a slipstream if you can.
I'm going to try and go for the repass. This is the last chance. Young's going to get through very early, but what does Odo do? He's going to show him to the inside indeed. There's side-to-side contact. How can Odo hold on from here? He's going to chase him all the way over the road. Now he goes back to the racing line. He's going to brake really late, but Young brakes later. He's going to now cut back under his Young. He's going to go for this Odo. He spins. He's trying to get the exit out of the chicane, and he spins. Aidan Young's going to win again in 2026. This time on the last lap against his teammate at Road Atlanta. Brandon Hawking comes through to second on season debut, and Ryan Odo ends up in third after trying everything on that last lap. He tried too much coming out that final chicane, and in the end he comes home third.
They had a big enough gap to at least it didn't cost him too much, but he was trying to just put that power down early and seeing, all right, I can maybe get a drag race to the line. So we look now at our AM leader, James Frasnick, who's got 3 seconds on Waylon Foco after his strategy pull. He's going to extend his AM championship lead once he crosses the line.
Through the final chicane. What a great drive from James Frasnick again, as you say, extending his championship lead again and putting himself very, very close to a World Finals position already with still 3 weeks to go. What a great victory from him in the AM class here tonight. Here's a replay of it again. Odo, in the end, deciding to go for the up and under. He must have hit the back of Young to spin so suddenly, but he was also, I guess, trying to stamp on the power as soon as possible there, and the Radical just couldn't quite take it.
I think he got a little bit too far inside of that curve, Ewan. I think he was trying to leave his teammates space and just didn't. Trying to leave his teammates space, trying to find a passing opportunity, and I think when you put the power down in the grass like that, yeah, that's just one of those like heartbreaking deals. Again, the good news is they had such a big gap to 4th place that he comes home 3rd.
Yeah, it's very possible. We'll chat to them both about it in a moment. But Aidan Young takes the race victory after 35 laps tonight in front of Brandon Hawkin by 5/10 in the end because of that spin for Ryan Odo at the end. Jack Dunkovic had a very lonely race but finished in 4th. Sky Shundelmeyer hung on to 5th place in front of Diego Zuccarelli. Jose Gonzalez was 7th in front of Romain Faux, who rounded out the pros. Then to the AMS, James Pransnick winning again in front of Rylan Fuoco, who completed the top 10 overall. Cara Judgen was on the podium in the AMS in the end, seeing off team rival Maxime Armand, and so Radical Academy Canada extend their lead in that standing. Brett Accord was the last driver on the lead lap there in front of Tina Rene, who was 1 lap down, and Jean-François Larocque 2 laps down, mainly as a result of that black flag that he got after the first pit stop of the day. Let's have a chat, shall we, to Aidan Young, who's won this race tonight from Road Atlanta. Aidan, welcome in. Congratulations on another race victory in 2026. There's only one place to start, of course. Tell us about the last lap there and that fight between yourself and Ryan.
Yeah, no, it was good. We knew Brandon was probably going to be pretty close after the pit stop, seeing as he took full fuel in the first one. So in our team voice chat, we were kind of just communicating like, okay, let's not do anything too crazy. Let's just try and work together, use the slingshot to our advantage, try and keep that gap at 6 seconds before the second stop. And then when we saw he pitted, we swapped around. Ryan's like, okay, I think you're a little bit better of an attacker. So we swapped positions, and I just tried to, run like a dog chasing a squirrel. And we got the gap to 2 seconds when he came out of the pits, but then obviously we knew he was probably going to have a little bit less fuel than us because of that long first stop. And we kind of communicated like, okay, whoever's faster, we'll just swap around, and we'll just keep swapping it to try and keep the gap at a good rate. And then going to the last lap, we still had the gap at around 1.1, 1.2. So as soon as we hit the last lap, we're like, okay, let's last lap now. Now let's fight, because now we'll have more of a chance to keep these top 2 spots. And then going into 10A, 10B, I kind of overshot the braking a little bit. And then at 10B, where the curb kind of dips down and goes into a bit of a divot, I tried to get to the power too soon. And when I did, I bottomed out with the car, and Ryan tried to over under me, and just because I bottomed out and couldn't accelerate, he drove up in the back of me, and we had that little incident there. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good racing. He's happy, I'm happy. We had a good race. We worked well. Brandon was definitely fast and kept us sweating though, so it's always a good thing to have a fast driver push you all the way.
Well, exactly. And I want to ask about that middle stint specifically, because you explained there about the swapping and the teamwork that you and Ryan employed. But what was your expectations of what you could actually do to the race as a whole? Were you thinking we can just see out this part of the race and you'll see Brandon again once he's made his pit stop? Did you expect him to come back into the group and really make it the 3 of you fighting for the win? Or did you expect to sort of distance him and maybe distance him by a bit more than you actually ended up doing and make it just about the 2 of you?
Well, we kind of expected we'd have the gap when he would leave the pits, because we're at speed. He's just now leaving the pit, and when you're at the low speed and you're trying to exit going up that hill, you lose a little bit of speed, and you don't have the full kind of steam ahead power like me and Ryan had. So we kind of expected we'd get a good little gap off of when he came out of the pits. But anything you race Brandon in, it's not a matter of if he gets to you. It's a matter of when he gets to you, and if you can try and prolong that for as much as you can, you have a pretty good shot at beating him.
Well, congratulations on beating everyone here today, Ed, and taking another race victory tonight. And thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you. Yep, see you guys at the next one.
Cheers, thanks very much. Aidan Young, the winner tonight at Road Atlanta, just in front of Brandon Hawkin in the end, who finishes in 2nd place. Brandon, welcome in. Good to have you with us. How do you assess a 2nd place finish today on your season debut for 2026 in the Radical SimRacing Americas Championship?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, not kind of a roundabout way of doing it there, but yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. I had a blast there trying to chase down Ryan and Aidan there, and then the first run they were right on my rear bumper, and man, that was that was some good stuff. I was like on it the entire time. It was that was that was really tough. But man, on the first stop there, took too much gas. I filled it up by accident, but I thought I could stick with them maybe if I could just like maintain the gap, and but it ended up being they were able to get ahead by a couple seconds there, and then so I was just hoping they'd both wreck each other there in the final corner, or get racing there, and so I was able to catch up. But man, I'll take it for first race, and had a lot of fun, and man, really good racing with both of them.
This is a very different race from what we see on Fridays, which we have seen you in a lot this season, for example, in iRacing. What was the real things to get to grips with this series and the differences in format here? Because this is a 45-minute race instead. There's 2 pit stops as well, instead of just the 20-lap sprint, which we had earlier this week. What's the big thing to get to grips with for a new driver?
Big thing's definitely the pit strategy. Like in the official series, you're kind of just, you qualify and then you're flat out for like 20-something minutes, and then you're done. This series, you're flat out for about 40 minutes, but you have to worry about pit stops and like how much fuel to take in the pits, and when you pit, and then we have traffic potentially taking a play there as well, and it's a lot of things going through your head, trying to see what you can do to get to the finish as quickly as possible. But there's a few laps to play with as far as fuel goes. So that'll be I know for next time not to take a full tank, but if I kind of split it into thirds, but then kind of, I don't know. Yeah, you have a few laps to play with, so it'd be fun trying to keep it keep going. I don't know, just this is the strategy, is just going through. You're thinking about it the whole time, but man, it's really fun series, and everybody in the Radical communities I've come across have been super nice and welcoming, and it's been a blast so far.
Well, great to have you in on a Sunday night for the America's Championship. Congrats on a second place run, Brandon, in your first race, and thanks for chatting to us tonight as well.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Brandon Hawkins. Second place tonight, and Ryan Odo ending up in third. Ryan, welcome in. Good to have you with us as well. Third place for you tonight. Could have been a lot more, of course. Could have been the race victory had that last lap panned out a little bit better for you. Just tell us about your thinking when you were positioning yourself on the penultimate lap and then going for the win on the last lap.
Yeah, funny enough, we actually thought that we were going to have 3 laps to go instead of 2. But we just so happened to cross the line, I'm pretty sure 1 second too late. So we ended up having a whole entire extra lap of fuel, and we're like, oh, so this is the last lap. So it kind of just didn't work out in my favor. I was planning to build a gap on what was the next lap, which ended up turning into the final lap of the race. So that way I could have a 3 or 4/10 gap to Aiden by the time I went on to the final lap of the race, but kind of didn't pan out that way, and it was kind of just trying to have damage limitation on that back straight. I thought maybe I could force him into some sort of mistake or something, and I did, but it kind of came in the form of karma. I took him out. It was in the Skip Barber race a little earlier on, and then he got wheel spin, which completely caught me off guard and caused me to spin. So yeah, I guess it was always something that you can learn from every race.
Well, exactly, and this is another race this season where you've come up, second to Aiden Young, but you're still second in the championship by some margin. So, and by the way, how was it to have Brandon Hawkins up with you today as well in terms of fighting for the win? It has just been about yourself and Aiden really this season. How was it to have a third member up towards the front this time round?
Yeah, it was actually really exciting because it forced Aiden and I to work together. Normally, I'll hide a little bit of my fuel from him, maybe throw him off a little bit by saying that I have an extra half lap of fuel when I really don't at all. But this time it completely forced us to work together. Aiden actually uses leaders, and I wanted to make sure that we got out at the pit lane at basically no tail, so I converted it for him, the exact amount of fuel I was going to take, so that way we could continue to work together and slingshot down that back straight to try and build that gap to Brandon.
Well, congratulations on still a podium for you tonight, Ryan, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race as well.
Thank you.
Cheers, thanks very much. Ryan Odo in third place tonight, and we haven't got any of the AM drivers, so let's pull in fourth place Jarek Dunkovic just quickly before we go as well. Jarek, welcome in. Good to have you as well. Fourth place for you tonight. Looked like one of the loneliest races I've ever seen. You have. How was it?
Yeah, it was pretty lonely out there. Definitely a little, little behind the eight ball, I guess. But the pace of those top three, it's insane to try to keep up with, especially, just moving up into the pros and still also having somewhat of a bad ankle. Getting a lot better, actually. It's, we're actually now being able to push the gas pedal for a change. So no more hand driving. So that's the good news. But yeah, the pace of those guys are it's pretty nuts. But hey, you know what? Moving up into the pro, I knew that this was going to be the challenge, and not to be completely outdone, but I'm pretty happy with generally, how much I've progressed in comparison to last year so far. Starting to blow, at least being consistently up in the top 5 with the fast guys. So, and consistently about a half second off of them. So that's, some minor improvements, but we're just going to keep chipping away at them and seeing what we can get to. But yeah, you're 100% right. It was definitely one of the loneliest races and probably one of the least eventful ones I had. But you know what? Sometimes least eventful is not a bad one.
Well, exactly. I'm just looking through the last year's results, for example. As you say, you were in the AM class, for those that don't know, this time last season. This time last season, I believe, was your first top 5 of the season, which you started to get a little bit more consistently towards the end of the season. But I think it was your first top 5, if not your second, but certainly one of very few by round 7 this time last year. So just how has that improvement been throughout 2026? Are there any specific things you've done to sort of look on improvement? Because we can definitely see the improvements just in the way, you're not in the AM class anymore, but just in the way that you're finishing miles ahead of the AM guys now in this season's races. Is there anything you can point to specifically that you've done to bring this on?
Honestly, I think it's just learning the car and learning how this thing behaves. I mean, there's still a lot more to learn. I mean, it's like the old saying of you can gain a half second, by waking up the next morning, but then to gain the last 0.2 of a second or even the last 1/10 of a second that you need is it's like just hours and hours of time on it, which, we'll see what we can do. But, yeah, I think it's predominantly just more time in the car and learning how it drives, especially learning how races throughout the 45-minute session. But then I think the other side of it would just be going back, coming over some data, and then also racing the officials on Friday when I can. It's interesting starting a new job, so that's kind of played host to it. But with that too, it's also I feel like running the Fridays events really gets me into the mindset of what needs to get done for the week. So it's a mix of things, but just keep plugging away and just putting more time in. I think that's going to be the answer.
All right, well, thanks for chatting to us tonight, Jarek. Congratulations on another good run to fourth place, and hopefully we will see you another Friday very soon.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Ewan.
Thanks so much, Jarek Dunkovic in fourth place here tonight from Road Atlanta, where it just about does it for us here tonight. Great to have you on board for tonight, Jonathan, for this 7th round of the 2026 Championship. It was all building up to a crescendo on the very last lap, and we did get our exciting last lap finish there between Ryan Odo and Aidan Young in the end.
Yeah, we got that exciting finish, and I think knowing that it was going to be... They were thinking, it might be 2 laps, and they got the weight, and they were like, oh, wait, this is the last lap. I think hearing that was even funnier because I looked at the time and I'm like, yeah, it's cutting it close. They might get 2 laps. Saw the white note. No, they're not.
No, indeed. I mean, the system predicted 36 laps initially, but we only got 35 in the end. Well, we're going to get probably a similar amount at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park on August 30th. That is the next round of our championship. We'll be live at 8:30 Eastern Time with that 8th round of the championship, so make sure you join us for that one in 6 weeks' time. There'll be a European round on a Sunday between now and then, and every week on a Friday on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing YouTube channels, we'll be live with a broadcasted official split as well, so make sure you join us for those. For now, that's about it from us tonight from Road Atlanta. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Jonathan Burke in the commentary box with Hugo Louise behind the cameras of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. We'll see you again in the Americas Championship in 6 weeks' time at Mosport. Goodbye for now.